Transmission and transfer case. That's another turbo 350. Hey, so good morning, everybody. So I've been working on this little debacle that I had on my 73 K5, and then also like this one. I'm wanting to go from the part-time or full-time NP203 transfer case. They wear front tires if you don't have lockouts on it. They wear front tires. They don't drive real good, and all of your drivetrain is constantly spinning. Okay. So what I wanted to do on the Green Blazer is the transmission's out of it. I'm wanting to get that rebuilt. Well, I got a call from the transmission guy that he's got a gap because he's building all this race car stuff that I want him to rebuild that Turbo 350, and he's got a chance. So finally I get a chance to get it dropped off and get it done. So my initial thought was I will just take the Turbo 350 that has the standard 4x4 shaft in it. I didn't know, all these differences. Okay, so last week you saw that I bought a Turbo 350 with an MP208 transfer case on it. Well, that's kind of like a 1-year deal before they went to the 700R4. And so I bought a rear setup, but I was looking at it, and even when I bought it, and I got a good deal on it, but I noticed this aluminum spacer that was throwing me off. But on the later model, they have this strut rod that goes from the transmission to the transfer case. And I'll get more into that. It was still on there and it was still hooked up. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So that's been twirling in my mind ever since I made that deal. So finally, I'm getting things ready because I'm going to drop the transmission off to get rebuilt. So let me show you what I got going. So if you look back in the video, here's the transmission out of the green 73K5. Here's the adapter for the NP, come on phone, focus, 203 transfer case. It's like 1 3/8 or whatever. Well, here is the setup off this transmission that had the 208 on it that I bought this weekend. Okay, so there's the adapter. And I got started thinking, I was like, something's not right here because, let me get that. I was worried about the geometry of the drive shafts, but going back to the strut rod, that bolts on the side of that 208 and goes up here to the bell housing, and that's just for extra support. This was on there intact, and so that got me thinking, well, the length has to be right because that is factory. Okay, so here's the adapter for the. Turns out this is the adapter that I thought was the Turbo 350 to the 208, which still very well is, but not for this setup. So what I initially thought, I was like, this is a 2-wheel drive, 6-inch transmission out of like a car, because the truck is an 8-inch, the car's 6-inch, and then you have the short stub shaft kind of for the 4x4s. So I got doing some measuring and everything, and I was like, this is out of like a conversion van, like where they took a van and converted it to 2-wheel drive, and this is not going to work for what I want to do. So I was like, oh crap, and definitely not going to work in a Scout. So I'm going to have to definitely do something different for the Scout. But I want to make that upgrade where I have a true 2-high position to drive down the road, because I'm not building that 73K5 for just an all-out rock crawling rig. I'm going to drive it, but I also want to be able to go off-road with it, and do some light wheeling. So what I did this morning, I had hooked this adapter to the true 4-wheel drive transfer case or whatever, and found out that there's about 2-inch difference between where this shaft and the transfer case is. So I was like, cool, I can get a coupler that goes on it. Well, I called Advanced Adapters this morning. They don't make that. So, okay, that's not going to work. So I'm going back now to this. So we did some measurements, and I was telling them what I had, and he goes, sounds like you have our 700R4 to like let me try to rephrase that. It sounds like you have our kit to convert a 700R4 back to a Turbo 350, because the 700R4 is not a good transmission. I haven't had any luck with it. It's real finicky, and I just don't like it. And the guy said this came out of an 86 Chevy K10, which would be a 700R4 208 transfer case. So we did some measurements. I measured this shaft, and I also noticed too, this is not a factory shaft. You can see this thing has been cut. They've milled it themselves, so somebody made that. Well, I done a measurement with the tech support at Advanced Adapters. He said, you have in this transmission our whole kit to convert a 700R4 to a Turbo 350 to go on that case, to because he goes, that was a pretty common deal for those 80s model four-wheel drive pickups, is to get rid of the 700R4 and put the 350 in it. So now, and then going back to the strut rod, this is the proper length setup, so I can use drive shafts out of an 80s model K5 to convert this and make it work a little bit better. So this has made my decision. I'm going to have this transmission rebuilt. Now, I'm sure it works, but the thing that worries me is you're not supposed to have silicone on any transmission. You start seeing that, those are telltale signs this has been jacked with. Also, I'm going to ask, this is a lockup, so this is a little bit later transmission case, but I'm not going to use the lockup. But so, that being said, this is the one I'm going with, so I can use that transfer case. It may not get any better gas mileage, but it'll drive better. It's more simple. There's more parts for this as opposed to the 203. This weighs about 60 pounds. The 203 over here weighs about 160. And this thing, I am getting just damn tired of fighting this thing around. And this is not actually the case that came out of it, because the one that was in the green Blazer, something's broken in it. So this one, I'm pretty sure I've went through and everything works in it, but I'd really just like to upgrade it. This is what I really, really want to do. So I'm just going to shelf that for a future project. Maybe we'll use it in that one. If that one's messed up, it's a spare, you know. And I would convert this to a part-time, but there's a shaft that you can buy, and that's what I want, and they don't sell that anymore. So I'm just really, and then also having to put, for that bearing to get oiled correctly, I've got to put it in four-wheel drive, just seem like constantly every couple hundred miles. I don't want to mess with that. There's a reason they make upgrades. GM that spend millions of dollars on this stuff, there's a reason they made upgrades. They went from that to that, and that's what I want to do. This one's all together. It all works as far as I know. I'm not changing nothing on this one. I'm not redoing, but the green one is the one I want to change, because I am going to drive that a lot more and everything. So this is what I'm going with. I have to figure something else out for the Scout. My mind changes about every week on that the more I research, so there's no telling what I'm going to do, put in that to get that one running. But I'm going to concentrate on the Blazer, on the green 73, and get it all back together, and that's what all this is for. So yeah, I'm using that transmission, going to get that rebuilt. This one's just going to be put up. There's no telling what I could find it for. I might have it rebuilt for spare for that one, so who knows. But now I'm going to get ready. I've got to pull these axles down. This one I've got to completely take apart because it's got some rain in it, so it had water in it, which is not bad, but it turned the grease milky. We'll get into that on the next video. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to take it completely apart, clean it up, put it back together, see how everything feels. I am about 95% sure it's going to be okay. So that's my next. Good morning, guys. It's another beautiful morning out here. Coming out to try to get a few things done. I'm getting ready to jump on the weed eater and do a couple of hours with the weed eating. If you noticed, I moved some things around. It's time to let me show you what I got going. So I stayed up too late moving stuff around. Blazer was there, car was over here, truck was against the back wall. But I'm going to today, I'm waiting on a few more parts for this. This is so close to running, but I'm gonna get on this. I've already power washed this really, really well. I've took some scratch pads and went over the frame. So today, probably later this evening after I get done doing some of my yard work, I'm gonna get the POR 15 out and go to town with this. Try to get this engine base slicked up, and then I'm gonna try to, after the paint dries, I'm gonna go over this firewall with some soap and water and try to just get that dirt off of it. Because we got the big block ready to go back in. They don't need to do anything else to it. But what I worked on yesterday, and I didn't video it because I just needed some time to think and, you know what I mean, and not worry about the camera stuff, but I went ahead and pulled this 12 bolt apart for the Blazer. And I'm figuring out what happened here. It is pretty dirty. But what happened, this was just a bare frame that was underneath a lean-to of an old barn. when I bought the green Blazer, Matt brought the frame. I talked him into it. I talk people into doing stupid stuff, but bought the frame while I done some wheeling and dealing to get these axles because I knew they had 373s in it. And anytime you get any of this four-wheel drive stuff, you try to get it because it's probably more than likely going to get scrapped. But this is a 373 open 12 bolt. I got it all taken apart. It needs to be putting the parts washer cleaned up. But what happened, I think, in the time that we got it, or maybe some of the time before they had it, this axle was probably perfect. But it's set with no body on it and it got water in it. And well, it's set for I don't know how many years with water. So it's a little rusty inside. So I'm gonna take this center section to the parts washer, and I did pull the pinion and unset the load on the crush sleeve, so I have to redo that, which is fine. I didn't feel comfortable leaving that pinion in there with that rust and mud. I didn't think I could get it cleaned out enough. But I've completely stripped this housing down and I'm gonna take it to the car wash and really clean it out. I'm put new seals in it. These bearings felt fine. I just got to get them cleaned out so they don't have any debris. But yeah, I'm gonna try to reuse the ring and pinion. It does have a little bit of light pitting on it, but I'll know more when I get it cleaned up. But I was looking last night. I just can't, man, I can't have a four-wheel drive rig that doesn't have a limited slip in the rear. So I was looking at limited slips last night, and I think I'm probably gonna pull the trigger. And if the ring and pinion's in terrible shape, I'll just do it all. I mean, it's worth spending because it's the time, now's the time to do it, you know. So I didn't really want to go that deep into, but I will if I have to. But yeah, today I got to run and get some supplies to get ready to paint this under hood area on this truck. So I'm thinking about throwing that housing on my trailer and going to the car wash and just giving it absolute heck to try to get this thing cleaned out. But I'm hopeful that I can reuse the ring and pinion, and I'm really thinking about buying a LSD to put in there. And then I pulled the cap off this front axle, and this thing is absolutely 100% perfect. No rust, no damage, no nothing. And I've went over this thing. Everything is in good shape, so I'm probably going to have to reuse the ball, or I don't have to, but I think I will reuse the ball joints. And my reason being is a lot of our new stuff isn't as good as this old stuff. And from what the people that we bought this stuff from, this thing was ripped apart in the 80s. So this truck wasn't that old and it wasn't on the road that long. So I know everybody wants to change everything, and I like to have new stuff. However, a lot of our new stuff is built overseas with like the metal's not that good and all this. This is made in the USA. Even though it's old, it's still tight. It still works. Now I wish they had some grease certs in it, and that may be a deciding factor, but anyhow, that's where I've gotten to on this stuff. And yeah, it does look terrible, but you know, a lot of these will it run videos and stuff, they'll pull the plug up here. If it's got fluid in it, they run it. And I guarantee you a lot of these, I have actually pulled the cap, and this is the case. They get rust from the oil level, and actually the oil level will be lower, so that's probably the water that was in it. But a lot of these look like that, and these, they just grind it up, man. So I know most people be like, oh, it needs to be completely rebuilt, and it might, but I'm going to try to get away without doing that. Hopefully I could reuse the ring and pinion, put a limited slip in it, get it all cleaned up, painted. I wouldn't faze me a bit to use it. So, but yeah, that's where we're at. The motor's ready, so I think I'm going to work on that today. But yeah, I'm getting ready to get my long pants on, get the weed eater out that doesn't run that good, that I'm too lazy to take to the shop again and try to get them to fix it. I'm still pretty aggravated about that. But yeah, that's what we're working on here today. Another scorching Oklahoma day, but it does feel good out here at 8 o'clock in the morning. So, well guys, unfortunately, I've taken the carrier out of the 12 bolt and the ring and pinion and cleaned them up very well, and it's not looking so good, guys, for this ring and pinion. So get that shadow out of the way. If you can see, there's some pretty heavy pitting in there. Now, would it clean up? Would it run? Oh, it'd get down the road. If this is an old farm pickup, or, you know, just didn't know about it, it would work for quite a while. But being this is something that I really want to invest in and work on and everything, it's just not looking so good for this ring and pinion. So I think it's an open diff anyways. So what I'm planning on doing is putting a limited slip in it. I'm gonna get a new ring and pinion. I mean, I have to. I got no choice now because, I mean, the stuff, I've got to reset the crush sleeve anyways. If I put a crush sleeve on it and do that, I might as well just spend a few $100s and do a ring and pinion. So, I'm trying to figure out what stuff I want to get, and of course, if it fits in the budget. So, yeah, that's it for this video. If you guys subscribe, we'll try to get some stuff going, man, because we're really close. I'm thinking maybe this, gotta get my hand right here. I'm thinking if I got time this Saturday, if I get enough work done on the house project I'm working on, the roof, I'm gonna try to, I got the motor ready. I'm trying to, dang, I can't get my finger right. Get the engine bay detailed in that. We gotta put the fuel tank. I gotta get the radiator and stuff mounted up. That's almost there, man. I just need about 4 or 5 hours and it'll drive out of here. So that's what we got going at this moment. So thanks, guys.